put this on a different layer so you can maybe see it. Okay. Can you see it now?
Kind of. I mean, I can't do it. Barely.
Okay. Well, now I'm going to turn on my solid hatch. I'm going to select my solid hatch, and I'm going to use draw order to send it to the back. Okay. So now I can see my solid, but I got my other hatch on top of it. Okay. That's the wrong hatch. There it is. Okay. Now I've got it right. All right, the last thing we're going to do, I want to put these hatches on some layers. Okay. So I'm going to choose what color I want for my house. I'm going to call this one stucco. Okay. And I'm going to choose a color that I want this house to be. Okay. Now I want this to be an earth tone. Let's say I want this to kind of appear like it belongs in Twin Falls. What's the color of Twin Falls?
Brown.
Dirt. Right, farming community, we don't have a lot of trees, we don't have a lot of rock, we've got a lot of vision. So I want it to be an earth tone, so I'm going to choose some type of brown. Okay. Now if I was up in the hills and I was doing a log cabin, I'd choose some type of red, right? And think, okay, I'm going to do logs, I'm going to stain them like redwood or cedar or something like that. So you match the color of your solid up with what you want. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to choose this brown color right here. Okay, that's going to be the color of that layer. Now you need to write down that number. You probably can't see this, but that color I chose was number 36. Okay, number 36. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my solid hatch and I'm going to put it on that layer. Okay, so that was my stucco layer right here. Now I need to turn that off, and I'm going to put my other one on. Okay, this hatch is going to go on my section layer because I want it to print black. And that one's already set to black. Okay. Now you can do this underneath a roof, underneath your line work there too. Now let me show you what this does for you. So let me turn that hatch back on. And what I'm going to really kind of mention here is what we call dithering. Dithering. By that, reducing the number of pixels that it prints. Right now, you have to know your printer. If I use a solid hatch, okay, and I print a little square, let's say this is a 1 inch by 1 inch square, and I use a solid hatch, it's going to appear as if it's totally solid, right? Okay, but that's not what the printer does. It doesn't print that thing solid. Our printer is capable of 640 DPI, which stands for dots per inch. So what the computer actually does is it comes in here and it draws 640 circles that are solid. Now what we're going to do is we're going to tell it, I don't want you to print all 640, and in essence it washes the color out. It works on a percentage basis. Right now, by default, it does 640 DPI, our printer. I'm going to tell it to run a dither percent of around 30%. So it's only going to print approximately 210 of these circles. But it's still going to cover the whole area. In essence, it's going to reduce that color. Kind of give it a, so it's not so constant, and I can see things through it. We use dithering all the time when we're doing views. Okay. So let me go into the plot of this. I'm going to go to my layout. Right here, I'm going to do a plot. So I'm going to go to the color printer, which is a 2300. I'll just slap a quick paper size out here. Oh, wait. Why didn't it choose my printer? 2300.
Because you're using the wrong printer.
Oh, thank you. Okay, let's just go ArchD. I'm not going to take the time to do everything here. Window. Center. Preview. Okay. What's going on with this wall right now?
Not seeing anything.
Okay, don't see anything. It's a black blob. Okay. Now let's go ahead and start changing it. So I'm going to do exit. Now I'm going to handle this through this pen table. Remember, we created a pen table that said everything prints black except colors 250 through 256. Now, I can edit the same one or I can just go make a new one. I'm just going to edit this one. So I'm going to click my little edit button. Now, remember what that layer was for stuccoing. It was color 36. So I'm going to go to color 36. And I'm going to tell it, I don't want you to print black anymore. So I'm going to say use the object color. Now, let me show you what that did. Okay, so I'm going to say OK, preview. Now I got that brown. You still don't see the sand on there, do you? Okay, I can see it just a touch on here as little black dots. Okay, but now it's the same color as the layer. This is too brown for me. Okay, so I want to reduce that a little bit. I'm going to use the dithering process. So I'm going to go back and edit my pen table. I'm going to go back to that color 36. Okay. We call it dithering, but it's kind of not. You have to have, by default, this dither's on, right here. But what controls it is the screening. This is like a transparency setting, and it's a percentage. Okay. So I'm going to start that. Right now it's at 100%. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and tell it, you know what, I want you to do a 30, which is 0.3 or 30%. And I'll save that. Now the reason you want to know these, because you're going to edit this thing, right? You got to be able to get to those colors. So there, now let me preview this one. Okay. Can you see that sand starting to pop up now? And you see what it did to the color. It still looks like a solid color. And if I had the whole house on this, I would see that. Okay. And if you control it by layer, you can get every one of these hatch patterns to work like that. And now it's starting to appear a little bit like how I want it. You can go a little bit further if you said, oh, you know what? I've got a sun that's sitting right here, and it's shining to where I've got shadow that comes down about here. Why not switch that solid to a gradient hatch? To where you've got shadows and colors going as they go through them. You can also do that. That's what's done on that one that's framed up there. It would take me quite a while. Let me just show you where that tool's at. So I'm going to exit. I'm not going to print this thing. That's the dithering process, and it works really well on colors where you got line work in the color. Make sure that the solid hatch is sent to the back, or the gradient hatch is in the very back. And then dither the color. Now, I'm going to zip back to model real quick. And let me delete that solid hatch. I just deleted my sand. Let me delete that one. And let me just show you how to use the dither. So I'm going to do boundary hatch. Now, under your materials, right up in here, if you choose your drop-down box and go to the bottom, okay, you're going to see these pop up. These are your gradient hatches. Okay? And in essence, they can depict sun and stuff. So in this one, I want my eaves to be a little dark because they got shadow right here, right? So I might start with this one. And then it will gradient down to another color, where it might start dark and get lighter. If I had the sun on the side at sunset pointing this way, I might choose one like, I don't know, this one. Because I want it to start light and go dark, or start dark and go light. Okay? So if you just play with these gradients, you can do it. Let me do one so you can see the options that you have with these. I'll do this front surface right here. So I'm going to go start dark and go, now that one's got kind of like a hot spot. This one's pretty linear. So I'm going to go with this guy. Okay. Now when I come down here, the first thing it's going to tell me is what colors do you want? Okay. What do you want to start with? Okay. Well, I'm going to tell it on this, you know what? I want you to start with this dark brown. Let's go with, I don't want to use those. Let's go to my index colors. More colors. And I'm going to start with a dark brown. That's color 38. And I want it to end with a light color again, it's gonna be brown, so let me go straight down in the palette to color 34. So that now gets it. Angle, I'm gonna leave the same. Tint, everything else is good. The gradient's all right, although you do have options on these. Okay, you can use different options. By the way, I think chapter 20, there's a chapter in your text that went through all this in your AutoCAD book. So let's go ahead and throw that hatch on. That's pretty close right there. Okay. Now, can you kind of see how I did it? Now, I would still dither this probably a little bit. I still got to have it in the background because I need to see these frames. But now I'm starting to give the appearance of some ambient light. And again, if I was stuccoing this or brick, I would just draw right over the top of it. So you can get pretty creative with some of this stuff and produce your color. If you want to see a good example of it, again, I would point you to that one that's framed sitting on the back desk. I used a lot of gradient hatches on it, and they were applied fairly well, in my opinion. Probably better than I've got the patience to do. All right, that's probably enough of your time I've taken up today. Any questions for me?